3,000 years ago, there was a human just like you and me who lived near a city surrounded by mountains. The human was starting to become a medicine man, to learn the knowledge of his ancestors, but he didn't completely agree with everything he was learning. In his heart, he felt there must be something more. One day, as he slept in a cave, he dreamed that he saw his own body sleeping. He came out of the cave on the night of a new moon. The sky was clear, and he could see millions of stars. Then, something happened inside of him that transformed his life forever. He looked at his hands, he felt his body, and he heard his own voice say, "I am made of light. I am made of stars." He looked at the stars again, and he realized that it's not the stars that create light, but rather light that creates the stars. This is what he discovered. Everything in existence is a manifestation of the one living being we call God. Everything is God, and he came to the conclusion that human perception is merely light perceiving light. He also saw that matter is a mirror. Everything is a mirror that reflects light and creates images of that light. And the world of illusion, the dream, is just like the smoke, which doesn't allow us to see what we really are. The real us is pure love, pure light, he said. This realization changed his life. He had discovered that he was a mirror for the rest of the people, a mirror in which he could see himself. Everyone is a mirror, he said. He saw himself in everyone, but nobody saw him as themselves. He realized that everyone was dreaming, but without awareness, without knowing what they really are. They couldn't see him as themselves because there was a wall of fog or smoke between the mirrors. And that wall of fog was made by the interpretation of images of light, the dream of humans. Then he knew that he would soon forget all that he had learned. He wanted to remember all the visions he had had, so he decided to call himself the Smoky Mirror, so that he would always know that matter is a mirror and the smoke in between is what keeps us from knowing what we are. He said, "I am the Smoky Mirror because I am looking at myself in all of you, but we don't recognize each other because of the smoke in between us. That smoke is the dream, and the mirror is you, the dreamer." Attention is the ability we have to discriminate and to focus only on that which we want to perceive. We can perceive millions of things simultaneously, but using our attention, we can hold whatever we want to perceive in the foreground of our mind. By using our attention, we learn the whole reality, a whole dream. We learned how to behave in society, what to believe and what not to believe, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, what is good and what is bad, what is beautiful and what is ugly, what is right and what is wrong. It was all there already. All that knowledge, all those rules and concepts about how to behave in the world. There are thousands of agreements you have made with yourself, with other people, with your dream of life, with God, with society, with your parents, with your spouse, with your children, and so on. But the most important agreements are the ones you made with yourself. In these agreements, you tell yourself who you are, what you feel, what you believe, and how to behave. The result is what you call your personality. In these agreements, you say, "This is what I am, this is what I believe. I can do certain things, and some things I cannot do. This is reality, that is fantasy. This is possible, that is impossible." One single agreement is not such problem, but we have many agreements that make us suffer, that make us fail in life. Each time you break an agreement, all the power you use to create it returns to you. If you adopt these 4 new agreements, they will create enough personal power for you to change the entire system of your old agreements. You need a very strong will in order to adopt the 4 agreements. But if you can begin to live your life with these agreements, the transformation in your life will be amazing. You will see the drama of hell disappear right before your very eyes. Instead of living in a dream of hell, you will be creating a new dream, your personal dream of heaven. The first agreement is being impeccable with your word. It is through the word that we manifest everything. Your word is pure magic, and misuse of your word is black magic. The human mind is like a fertile ground where seeds are continually being planted. The seeds are ideas, concepts, and opinions. Individuals relate themselves to the words they listen. By hooking our attention to a word, we can change a whole belief for better or for worse. Impeccability means without sin. Impeccable comes from the Latin peccatus, which means sin. The im in impeccable means without, so impeccable means without sin. A sin is everything that you do which goes against yourself. Sin begins with a rejection of yourself, and self-rejection is the biggest sin you can commit. Only truth can set us free. Gossip is like a virus. You get imprinted with a false belief and you continue to spread that around. We create this poison and spread it around to others just so we can feel right about our own point of view. In essence, by adopting the first agreement, we learn to be impeccable with our word. By being impeccable with our word, we're spreading the truth. It will provide us with immunity from anyone who wants to place an evil spell to us. By becoming impeccable, our mind is only fertile for seeds of love. We can attain the kingdom of heaven from this one agreement. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. The second someone insults you, it's not about you, it's about him, a reflection of who he is. The moment you let the poison go through you, you have agreed with the insult. This is called personal importance, and it is the maximum expression of selfishness, because we make the assumption that everything is about me. By not taking the insult personally, you are immune in the middle of hell. Your reaction is to defend your beliefs and create conflicts. The second someone insults you, you have to keep this one thing in your mind. It is nothing personal, because you're dealing with yourself, not me. In essence, when someone insults you, it's not about you, it's about him. It's not what he's saying to you that is hurting you, but the wounds that he touches by what he has said. If others say one thing and do another, you are lying to yourself if you don't listen to their actions. Remember, you're not responsible for the actions of others, but you're responsible for yours. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. The problem with assumptions is that we believe they are the truth. We take it personally and we blame others by reacting and sending our emotional poison to them with our word. By making an assumption, we misunderstand. We only see what we want to see and hear what we want to hear. We are afraid to ask questions, so we start making assumptions. For example, we make the assumption that the other person knows what we want, and if he doesn't do what we want, we feel hurt. The problem is that we make the assumption that everyone sees life the same way as we do. We assume that others think, feel, judge, and abuse the same way as we do. And this is why we're afraid of being ourselves around others. We assume that others think, feel, judge, and abuse the same way as we do. And this is why we're afraid of being ourselves around others. Because we're afraid of being judged, victimized, abused, blamed, and so on for just being ourselves. Therefore, before anyone else has the chance to reject us, we have already rejected ourselves. The way to keep ourselves from making assumptions is to ask questions. By asking questions, we make the communication clear. Once you hear the answer, you will not have to make an assumption because you will know the truth. Without making assumptions, your word becomes impeccable. Understanding of this agreement is just the seed. Action and repetition will make you establish a solid foundation. The fourth agreement is always do your best. Everything is alive and changing all the time, so your best will sometimes be high quality, and other times your best will not be as good. Doing your best is taking the action because you love it, not because you're expecting a reward. Some do the opposite and only take action when they expect a reward. Some resist work because they only work for the reward. Rewards will come, but do not be attached to the reward. You cannot be judged if you do your best. When you do your best, you learn to accept yourself. You know you're doing your best because you're enjoying yourself. You're enjoying the action of doing it. Expressing what you are is taking action. By not taking action upon the idea, there will be no manifestation, no results, and no reward. Doing your best is a habit to live by. When you work on your dream, put your whole self in it. When you love, love like there is no tomorrow. When you work out, focus on its exercise deeply. There is no yesterday and no tomorrow. Letting go of the past mistakes lets you fully invest in your present time and enjoy the dream that is happening right now. You were born with a right to be happy. Do not expect that you will always be impeccable with your word. Do not expect that you will never take anything personally. Do not expect that you will never make an assumption. But you can certainly do your best. If you do your best again and again, you will become the master of transformation. And action is what makes the difference. These 4 agreements are the summary of the mastery of transformation. You transform hell into heaven. Your path will be full of obstacles, and you will find that everything around you at times is a setup to break those agreements. As the Toltec text teaches, the reward is to transcend the human experience of suffering and become the embodiment of God. If you fail, be tough with yourself and start all over again. Day by day, it will become easier until one day you have become the master of yourself. It is time to be free from the role of the victim. The real you is still a little child who never grew up. Sometimes that little child comes out when you're having fun or playing, when you feel happy, when you're painting or writing poetry, when you're playing the piano or expressing yourself in some way. These are the happiest moments of your life, when the real you comes out, when you don't care about the past and you don't worry about the future. Then you're childlike. We are still children, but we have lost our freedom. The freedom we're looking for is the freedom to be ourselves, to express ourselves. But if we look at our lives, we will see that most of the time we do things just to please others, just to be accepted by others, rather than living our lives to please ourselves. The worst part is that most of us are not even aware that we're not free. The first step toward personal freedom is awareness. We need to be aware that we're not free in order to be free. We need to be aware of what the problem is in order to solve the problem. Awareness is always the first step, because if you're not aware, there is nothing you can change. If you're not aware that your mind is full of wounds and emotional poison, you cannot begin to clean and heal the wounds, and you will continue to suffer. One way to change your beliefs is to focus your attention on all those agreements and beliefs and change the agreements with yourself. In doing this, you're using your attention for the second time, thus creating the dream of the second attention or the new dream. The first step is to become aware of the fog that it is in your mind. The decision to adopt the 4 agreements is a declaration of war to regain your freedom from the parasite. The way you are living now is the result of many years of domestication. You cannot expect to break the domestication in one day. Breaking agreements is very difficult, because we put the power of the word, which is the power of our will, into every agreement we have made. We need the same amount of power to change an agreement. We cannot change an agreement with less power than we used to make the agreement. And almost all our personal power is invested in keeping the agreements we have with ourselves. That's because our agreements are actually like a strong addiction. We are addicted to being the way we are. We are addicted to anger, jealousy, and self-pity. We are addicted to the beliefs that tell us, I'm not good enough, I'm not intelligent enough. Why even try? Other people will do it because they're better than me. All of these old agreements which rule our dream of life are the result of repeating them over and over again. Therefore, to adopt the 4 agreements, you need to put repetition in action. Practicing the new agreements in your life is how your best becomes better. Repetition makes the master. Every day, we awake with a certain amount of mental, emotional, and physical energy that we spend throughout the day. If we allow our emotions to deplete our energy, we have no energy to change our lives or to give to others. The symptoms of a disease are all the emotions that make us suffer: anger, hate, sadness, envy, and betrayal. When the fear is too great, the reasoning mind begins to fail, and we call this mental illness. Psychotic behavior occurs when the mind is so frightened and the wound so painful that it seems better to break contact with the outside world. If we can see our state of mind as a disease, we find there is a cure. We don't have to suffer any longer. First, we need the truth to open the emotional wounds, take the poison out, and heal the wounds completely. How do we do this? We must forgive those we feel have wronged us, not because they deserve to be forgiven, but because we love ourselves so much we don't want to keep paying for the injustice. Forgiveness is the only way to heal. We can choose to forgive because we feel compassion for ourselves. We can let go of the resentment and declare, that's enough. I will no longer be the big judge that goes against myself. I will no longer beat myself up and abuse myself. I will no longer be the victim. First, we need to forgive our parents, our brothers, our sisters, our friends, and God. Once you forgive God, you can finally forgive yourself. Once you forgive yourself, the self-rejection in your mind is over. Self-acceptance begins, and the self-love will grow so strong that you will finally accept yourself just the way you are. That's the beginning of the free human. Forgiveness is the key. We must learn to control the emotions, so we have enough personal power to change our fear-based agreements, escape from hell, and create our own personal heaven. The warrior has awareness. We are aware that we are at war, and the war in our minds requires discipline. Not the discipline of a soldier, but the discipline of a warrior. Not the discipline from the outside to tell us what to do and what not to do, but the discipline to be ourselves, no matter what. The warrior has control. Not control over another human, but control over one's own emotions. Control over one's own self. The big difference between a warrior and a victim is that the victim represses, and the warrior refrains. When you are thinking and anticipating of the future, you are creating a new dream. In order to understand a new dream is to forget everything you have learned in your whole life. Let's see it like this. You have the power to create hell, and you have the power to create heaven. You are the conscious creator of your own reality. You can live by not being affected of what other people think of you. If you respect and love yourself, you don't live by the fear of not being loved, by the fear of being rejected. Because you have already accepted yourself, and you don't need anyone else to do that for you. Only love has the ability to put you in the state of bliss. And when you live in the way of love, there will no longer be a fog in your mind. All your beliefs and agreements are in the fog. You may not see it now, but suffering makes you feel safe because you know it so well. And some people are so attached to the suffering that they don't know who they are without it. You suffer because you choose to suffer. And the same is for happiness. You choose to be happy. Happiness is a choice, and so is suffering. At the beginning of each day, we have a choice. To suffer our destiny or to enjoy our destiny. To suffer or to love and be happy. To live in hell or to live in heaven. I choose to live in heaven. What will your choice be?